We're in Psalm 106 today, and it's too long to read all now, which is there are 48 verses. But that's frustrating because in a way, in order to really get into Psalm 106, it requires us to read it all in one go, because what you have really is a flow, a history of God and his people that pulls out two huge themes. One of the themes that's kind of laid out before us is the graciousness and the steadfastness of God's love for his people. It's constant. But then unfortunately also through this 48 verse history is another theme equally strong in some ways of God's people's ingratitude and lack of thankfulness. In fact, it was Tim Keller, when he read this psalm, that he said that one way we could define the sin that we see in all of our lives is it's like cosmic ingratitude, which is a pretty strong thing to say. So how do we use this psalm to pray? Well, actually, the way I found it helpful, and you may find other ways, but the way I find it helpful to pray this psalm is to read it and to pull from it themes that we can, if you like, learn from the history of our people and take those themes into conversations with God. See it like a three-way conversation, us and history, and then us and God. So let me read the first 5 verses just to kind of set the scene, and then I'm going to pull you into a three-way conversation. Praise the Lord, oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. For his steadfast love endures forever. Remember that big theme of the constancy of God's love weaving its way through this whole psalm. Who can utter the mighty deeds of the Lord or declare all his praise? Blessed are they who observe justice, who do righteousness at all times. Remember me, O Lord, when you show favor to your people. Help me when you save them, that I may look upon the prosperity of your chosen ones, that I may rejoice in the gladness of your nation, that I may glory with your inheritance. So there's the kind of the introduction, the bigness of God and this call to live well. And then these themes that we learn from history. Verse 7, they did not remember the abundance of your steadfast love. God's people have got a history of forgetting, of not considering what God has done down through the years. And so what we do is we pick up this theme and we take it into prayer and we think, Lord, would you help me to be a person who counts my blessings? Would you help me to be a person who remembers what you've done? Would you help me to be a person who doesn't just leave history in the past, but learns from it and brings a remembrance into my present day relationship with you? If that makes sense. Verse 13, they soon forgot his works. They did not wait for his counsel. This big theme again in history of God's people not listening, not waiting, rushing ahead of God. And so we pick up this learning from history and we take it into prayer. Lord, teach me to slow. Teach me to wait. Teach me to listen. Verse 25, they murmured in their tents and did not obey the voice of the Lord. I think it was Mike Pilavachi who coined the phrase that obedience is the love language of the Lord. Well, here again you have it throughout the whole of Psalm 106, this lack of living well, this disobedience to the voice of the Lord. And again, we pick up this theme. We learn from the history of our people and we carry it into prayer and we ask for the Lord's help. Teach me obedience. Help me walk attentively to what you're saying. Verse 36, they served their idols, which became a snare for them. It's not just the history of God's people, it's my history. Little habits that suddenly become big habits that trap me. Again, it pulls me into that place of prayer going, Lord, help me live free. Help me to not get stuck in those things that pull me away from you all the time. And then I'm going to read to you last 4 verses just to bring it into land. This history then brings us into land by calling us to praise. Nevertheless, he looked upon their distress when he heard their cry. For their sake he remembered his covenant and relented according to the abundance of his steadfast love. He caused them to be pitied by all those who held them captive. Save us, O Lord our God, and gather us from among the nations, that we may give thanks to your holy name and glory in your praise. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, from everlasting to everlasting. And let all the people say, Amen. Praise the Lord. I invite you to read Psalm 106 and embark on a three-way conversation, learning from history and then taking what you're learning into a conversation with the Lord about your today. Have a pray. God bless.